If you're listening late at night, you might want to stay until the end. Something happened to me 3 months ago, and to this day I can't look at a name tag without feeling my stomach churn. My name is Rodrigo. I work as a shift supervisor at a petrochemical plant in southern Louisiana near Port Sulphur, one of those giant structures you see from the road and hope you never have to go inside. Distillation towers, pipes snaking like veins of metal, steam billowing from valves, that chemical smell that clings to your clothes and won't come out even after washing 3 times. I work the night shift, from 10 at night until 6 in the morning, 14 years in this routine. I've seen people lose fingers, I've seen fires, I've seen gas leaks that almost killed 4 operators. I've learned one thing: in this place, you follow protocol or you die. Simple as that. That night, it was a Tuesday, early November. Biting cold coming from the Gulf, dense fog covering the walkways. I took over the shift as usual. Checklist in hand, tablet with the staff schedule, radio on my belt. 32 workers registered. Mandatory visual check. It was on walkway B, near Tower 3, that I saw him for the first time. A man in orange overalls, white helmet, safety glasses, gloves, and steel-toed boots. Complete, impeccable PPE. He walked slowly, hands in his pockets, looking up as if inspecting the pipes. His badge swayed on his chest. I could see it from afar, hanging from the company's green lanyard. I found it strange. I didn't recognize the face. But also, we had a lot of outsourced work that week. Heavy maintenance, people from outside the area. I opened the tablet. I ran my finger over the list. Name by name, none of them matched the department where he was. I tried to enlarge his mental image. Pale face, thin, unshaven, but the fog was thick, and he had already turned the corner, disappearing among the tanks. They probably just haven't updated the spreadsheet, I thought, but something in my chest tightened. I picked up the radio. Base, this is Rodrigo, night supervisor. Are there any extra shifts on the schedule for today? Restricted Area B? Silence. Then, the dry voice of the operations manager, Dawson. Rodrigo, we have a controlled leak in Tower 2. It's not a priority right now. Copy. I put the radio away. I continued my patrol. But I knew something was wrong. Half an hour later, I saw him again. This time, near the compressor area. He was standing there, his back to me, looking at a relief valve as if he were waiting for something. His hands were still in his pockets. Strange posture, too rigid. "Hey!" I shouted, quickening my pace. He turned his head slightly, not his whole face. Just enough for me to know he heard me. And then he walked away. Not running. Just walking. But quickly, fluidly, as if he knew exactly where to go. I followed him. I crossed the metal grate walkway, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the void. The fog swallowed everything ahead. The yellowish lights flickered erratically, leaving long, distorted shadows on the pipes. When I got to compressor 4, it had disappeared. I looked everywhere. Nothing. I picked up the radio again. "Base, I need confirmation. There's a worker circulating in Area B without being registered. Badge visible, but I can't identify them. I request an immediate check." The response came quickly, irritated. "Rodrigo, we have 200 people in this plant today. Do you want me to stop operations to check ID badges?" "No, but..." "Then focus on the leak. Stop being paranoid." I turned off the radio. I felt the anger rising. But also, that thing. That feeling you get when you know something's not right, but nobody wants to listen. I went back to the control room. Jimmy, the panel operator, was drinking coffee, his eyes glued to the screens. "Jimmy, have you seen anyone strange today? Someone you don't know?" He shrugged without taking his eyes off the monitor. "Man, they're signing new players every week. I don't even look anymore. But this one is in a restricted area, alone." Jimmy finally looked at me. "Does he have a badge?" "He has." "Then it's authorized." He went back to the cafe. I stood there, frozen, feeling the weight of protocol crushing me. Technically, Jimmy was right. If the guy had a badge, he had authorization. But I opened the system on the computer. I typed active workers, night shift, area B. 32 names, all with photos, all with registered badge codes. I picked up my cell phone. I took a picture of the screen. I went out again. This time, I was going to approach that man. I was going to ask for his name, his badge number. I was going to put an end to this. I walked along the walkways. The wind from the Gulf was stronger now. The fog moved like something alive, creeping between the tanks. I could hear the constant hum of the pumps, the hiss of the steam, the beep, beep, beep of the low-priority alarms. And then, I saw him again. He was on the elevated walkway. The same one. Tower 3, exactly where I had started my patrol. Back turned, standing still, looking down. My heart raced. I started climbing the metal ladder. Each step echoed. He didn't move. I arrived at the pedestrian bridge, about 10 meters from him. "Hey, I need to talk to you." He turned around. This time, it turned completely around, and I saw his face, pale, deep-set eyes, mouth slightly open, unshaven. He didn't blink. He just stared at me. And then slowly, he raised his hand, and he waved. A slow, mechanical nod, as if he were greeting me. I froze, because I recognized that gesture. That's what we did when we confirmed our attendance during the shift count. But he didn't say anything. He didn't move. He just stood there, with his hand raised, looking at me. And then the light above him flickered. Once, two. On the third occasion, when he returned, he wasn't there anymore. I went down those stairs so fast that I almost slipped on the steps, which were wet with condensation. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I ran to the base of Tower 3, searching for any sign of him. Nothing, just pipes, steam escaping from valves, and that acrid smell of sulfur that always got stronger at night. I picked up the radio. My hand was trembling. "Base, I need access to the cameras. Now." "Rodrigo, what's going on?" "Just give me access, please." Silence. Then the click of release. I ran back to the control room. Jimmy looked at me with that expression of someone who thinks you're freaking out, but doesn't want to get involved. I sat down in front of the secondary monitor. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I rewound the images. Tower 3, Walkway B, last 15 minutes. And there he was. In the recording, I could see him going up the stairs, normal movements, nothing strange. He stops at the top, turns his back to me. Then I appear. I climb up. I approach. He turns around. I freeze. He nods. The light is flashing. And when it turns, he's still there. In the recording, he's still there. But I saw him disappear. I saw him. "What the hell?" I whispered. I enlarged the image, maximum zoom on his name tag. The number was legible, PE7731. I opened another window, Human Resources System. I typed in the code. No results found. I tried again. Same thing. I searched the history of badges issued in the last 6 months. Nothing. I searched through temporary badges, visitors, contractors, auditors. Nothing. PE7731 did not exist. "Jimmy," my voice came out hoarse. "Come see this." He crawled over to me, still holding his coffee mug. I showed the screen. I showed the badge. I showed the empty search results. Jimmy frowned. "System error. It happens." "No, look at the recording. He's here. Badge visible, name legible. But the code doesn't exist." Jimmy scratched his beard. "Maybe it's an old ID badge. from when the company still used a different format. Dude, we changed the system 5 years ago. None of the old badges work at the turnstiles anymore. So, how did he get in? That question remained unanswered. I had no answer. I went back to the cameras. I started going through all the recordings from the night, angle by angle. And then I realized something. He always appeared in the corners, in the blind spots. Always with his back turned, or sideways, never facing me, except that last time, when he turned to me. But in all the images, one thing remained constant. He was always alone. Even when passing through busy areas, even when other workers were nearby, nobody looked at him, nobody spoke to him, nobody seemed to see him, except for me. Jimmy. My voice trembled. He passed through the H2S area. Jimmy raised his head. Which area? Hydrogen sulfide sector, red zone. Requires specific authorization and a mandatory portable detector. Jimmy quit the coffee shop. No one can enter there without an escort. I know. I switched cameras. H2S sector. 23 minutes ago. There he was, walking slowly between the tanks. Alone, without a detector, without an escort. And the worst part, he was standing right in front of the purge valve. The same one that had experienced intermittent failure last week. The same one that we still didn't have authorization to completely shut down because it would impact production. He was looking at her. Just looking, as if he knew. I took the radio. This time, I didn't ask permission. All units, code yellow. Unidentified worker in restricted H2S zone. Search team needed. Now. Dawson's voice exploded on the radio. Rodrigo, what the hell are you doing? There's someone in the red zone without authorization. Are you sure about that? I looked at the screen. The man was still there. Standing. Staring. Absolute. Okay. Team on the way. But if this is a false alarm, you'll have to explain it to the director tomorrow. Copy. I hung up. Jimmy looked at me. Dude, are you sure about what you saw? I didn't answer, because honestly, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. 6 minutes later, the alarm went off. Not the fire alarm, not the leak alarm. It was an intrusion alarm for a restricted area. A sharp, pulsating sound cut through the air like a blade. Red lights began to spin in all sectors. The radio exploded with overlapping voices. Confirmed, motion sensor activated in the H2S sector. Response team, red zone, code 2. I was already running. I crossed the entire plant, metal walkways vibrating beneath my feet, the cold wind cutting my face. The fog so dense now that I could barely see 3 meters ahead. I arrived at the entrance to the H2S zone at the same time as the response team. 3 men with portable detectors, PFF3 masks strapped to their belts, and high-powered flashlights. Marcus, the team leader, looked at me with barely disguised anger. This better be real, Rodrigo. Yes, he's in there. Who? Unidentified worker. Badge PE7731. Marcus frowned, but didn't argue. He activated the detector. The device beeped 3 times, safe level. We went in. The H2S area was a labyrinth of cylindrical tanks, thick pipes painted yellow and black, and warning signs every 5 meters. Danger. Hydrogen sulfide, fatal if inhaled. The flashlights cut through the fog in white, irregular beams. Our footsteps echoed on the cracked concrete. Spread out, Marcus ordered. Complete sweep. If you find anyone, don't approach them alone. I walked down the main corridor. My heart was racing. My hands were sweating inside my gloves. I passed tanks 4, 5, and 6. Nothing. I arrived at the purge valve, the same one he was watching on the cameras. Empty. Nobody. Only steam slowly rising from a fissure at the base. The smell of sulfur was stronger here, nauseating. My throat started to itch. Marcus, south sector clear, I shouted over the radio. The north is clean too. West, nothing here. It didn't make sense. He was here. I saw him. I ran back to the control room. Jimmy was still there, now accompanied by Dawson, the manager. He glared at me. "Explain." I pointed to the monitor. "He came in 23 minutes ago. Look." I rewound the recording. I pointed at the screen. There he was, entering the H2S zone, walking between the tanks, stopping at the valve. Dawson crossed his arms. "And where is the way out?" "What?" "If he went in, he came out. Show him the way out." I passed the recording on. 5 minutes, 10, 15. He didn't leave. I kept walking. 20 minutes, 30. The area was empty, but he never crossed back through the entrance. "Is there another way out?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "No." Dawson was serious now. "Just this entrance. There's no way out without going through the camera." Jimmy leaned forward. Maybe he's still there. "The team swept everything away. There's nobody left." Dawson pressed his lips together. "Show your badge again." I went back to recording. Zoom in on his chest. PE 7731, clear as water. Dawson picked up the phone. He called the Human Resources Department. "Yes, I need urgent verification. Badge PE 7731. "That's right, PE 7731. Silence. He listened. His face turned pale. "He is sure?" More silence. "Okay, thanks." He hung up. He looked at me. That number was never issued. Like this. The PE sequence was discontinued in 2016. We switched to alphanumeric format. And according to the system, he took a deep breath. The number 7731 never existed, not even in the old system. It's a phantom code. The air in the room grew heavy. Jimmy stepped away from the screen. I couldn't take my eyes off the monitor. The man was there, standing still, staring at the valve. And then, slowly, he turned his head. Not for the camera, for me. As if he knew I was watching. As if I had been waiting for this all along. And for the first time since I saw him, he smiled. I didn't sleep for the next 3 days. Dawson ordered the incident to be filed as a sensor technical failure. The crew was dismissed. The leak was contained. Production continued. No one spoke about the man again, but I couldn't forget. That smile, those deep eyes, the mechanical nod, and the question that wouldn't leave me alone. Why was I the only one who saw it? On the 4th day, during my day off, I returned to the plant, not as a supervisor, as a visitor. I went straight to the archives, a container in the back of the complex, full of dusty boxes, old papers, incident reports filed before digitization. I spent 2 hours searching, and then I found it, a yellowed folder, faded label, incident report, October 2016, shelter. The first page was a standard form, date, October 14th, 2016, time, 3:47 a.m., location, H2S sector, purge valve, 6, incident type, fatality. My stomach churned. I continued reading. Maintenance technician Daniel Everett, 37, was found unconscious near purge valve 6 after prolonged exposure to hydrogen sulfide, H2S. Response personnel took approximately 40 minutes to locate the body due to low visibility caused by dense fog. Probable cause, failure of the individual handheld detector. Death confirmed at 5:12 a.m. at the scene. 40 minutes. He stayed there, alone, dying, while the plant continued operating. I'll turn the page. There was a photo attached. An identification photo. Pale face, sunken eyes, unshaven. It was him. My breath caught in my throat. I continued reading, my hands trembling. Badge number, PE 7731. I dropped the folder. I stood there, motionless, listening only to the distant hum of the machines, the wind hitting the metal of the container. Daniel Everett. He died in 2016, 8 years ago, and he was there, in the same area, at the same valve, waiting. I went back to the plant the following night. Nobody knew I had found out. Nobody asked. I took over the shift as usual. Checklist, tablet, radio. But this time, I knew what to look for. And at 3:47 a.m., exactly the time of the accident, I saw him again. He was on the walkway of Tower 3, back turned, hands in pockets, looking down. My whole body froze. But this time, I didn't run. I didn't scream. I didn't grab the radio. I just stood there, watching. And slowly, he turned his head. He looked at me, and he waved. That same wave, slow, mechanical, as if to say, I know you see me. I forced my legs to move. I climbed the stairs. Each step felt like it weighed a ton. I arrived at the catwalk. He was still there, less than 5 meters from me. I could hear my own breathing, feel the biting cold of the wind, see the fog moving around him like smoke. Daniel. My voice came out weak. Are you Daniel Everett? He didn't answer. He just looked at me, and then, slowly, he raised his hand. Not to wave, to point out. He was pointing downwards, towards the H2S sector, towards Purge Valve 6. My blood ran cold, because I knew what that meant. The valve had never been repaired. It still malfunctioned intermittently. It still leaked. It was still a ticking time bomb. And nobody did anything, because stopping the valve meant stopping production. You want me to... I swallowed hard. Close the valve? He kept pointing. And then, for the first time, he spoke. Not with the mouth, with the voice. A hoarse voice, distant, as if it came from very far away. Someone needs to see this. And it disappeared. The next morning, I pressed Dawson. I said the valve was critical, that it needed to be closed immediately, that it was a matter of life or death. He looked at me as if I had gone mad, but he authorized the inspection. The team found a deep crack at the base of the valve. It was days away from rupturing completely. If that happened during the night shift, 20 people could die. They closed the valve. They stopped production for 6 hours. They fixed the problem. No one died. But I know the truth. I know Daniel Everett is still there. He didn't leave. He still roams the plant. He still appears on camera. He still walks among the tanks. And sometimes I see him. Always at the same time. Always in the same area. Waiting. Because this place has never stopped operating since he died. And he wants someone to see it. He wants someone to remember. He stayed there, alone, while everyone else continued working. I still work here. I still work the night shift. And every time I see a name tag that I don't recognize, I'll check. Always. Because now I know. Like everyone who's on this plant, he's alive. Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name is Marcus. I was a maintenance supervisor on the Gulf 7 platform 180 miles off the coast of Louisiana. If you've never worked offshore, let me explain something to you. There's no greater loneliness than being surrounded by endless ocean, cold metal, and the constant noise of turbines that never stop. It's like living inside a machine, and machines don't care if you disappear. It was 2:17 a.m. when the radio crackled on my desk. Marcus, we have a problem in section D9. It was Jenkins, from monitoring. Tired voice, as always. The night shift does that to everyone. What kind of problem? Metallic noise, abnormal. Sensors are picking up irregular vibrations. It could be a loose cable. It could be structural. I need someone to go there and check it out. I looked at the monitor in front of me. Section D9 was at the eastern end of the platform. Outdoor area. Exposed. The fog was thick that night, the kind that swallows everything, that makes you lose all sense of where the metal ends and the void begins. I'm sending Henrique. Henrique had been a coach for 6 years. Reliable. Calm. He'd gone alone dozens of times. Nothing out of the ordinary. Okay. Let me know when he gets there. I called Henrique on the internal radio. He answered in seconds. Boss, I need you to take a look at D9. Metallic noise. Probably nothing, but the protocol is to check. A brief silence. Then, now. Okay, I'll get the kit. I heard him walk away. The creaking of the warehouse door. The clinking of tools. Then his voice came back, closer to the radio. Leaving now. I'll keep in touch. Perfect. Call me if you need anything. He left. I stared at the computer screen. Reports, pressure, temperature, everything normal, always normal, until it wasn't. The wind howled outside. I could hear it even through the steel walls, and beneath it all, always, that deep hum of the turbines, like a giant heart beating without stopping. Henrique would take about 10 minutes to reach D9, maybe 15, depending on the fog. I didn't know it, but those would be the last normal minutes of my life, because when the radio started crackling again, the voice on the other end was no longer the same. 18 minutes. That's how long it took for the radio to crackle again. I was reviewing the pressure reports when I heard the static. Loud, sharp, the kind that makes you want to pull your headphones away from your ears. Henrique, is everything all right there? Hissing sound. Then silence. Then, everything's normal here. His voice sounded strange. Paused, as if he were reading from a script. Without emotion. Without the heavy breathing that always came after climbing stairs or walking against the wind. Did you arrive at D9? Long pause. Static again. I arrived. And the noise? Did you find the source? Another pause. This time a longer one. I started to feel something creeping up my spine. A feeling that something was wrong. Very wrong. Still, checking. The way he said it. Mechanical. Cold. As if each word required immense effort. Or as if he were carefully choosing what to say. Henrique, are you okay? Silence. Henry. The static returned. But this time, beneath it, I heard something else. A metallic noise, high-pitched, like a fingernail scratching steel. My stomach churned. I am fine. But his voice trembled, just a little, almost imperceptible, but it trembled. Do you want me to send someone there? No. Too fast. Too definitive. I haven't finished yet. I stood up from my chair. My heart was racing. Something in his tone, the way his words came out cut off, without context. It was as if he were answering questions I hadn't asked. Henrique, come back. We'll check this in the morning with more people. Static, long, heavy. Then his voice returned. But this time, it was a whisper. There's someone here. My blood ran cold. What? Someone is looking at me. Henrique, get out of there now. Now! Static exploded on the radio. I pressed the transmit button so hard my fingers hurt. Henrique! Nothing. Just a constant hissing sound. Empty. Endless. And then, total silence. Radio is dead. I stood there, motionless, holding the equipment in my hand, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. The lights in the control room flickered softly. The hum of the turbines continued, indifferent. But Henrique had disappeared. I knew I should activate the emergency protocol immediately. But a part of me, the stupid part, the part that wanted to believe everything had a logical explanation, hesitated. Maybe it was just interference. Maybe his radio had broken. Maybe he was coming back at that exact moment. Perhaps. I waited, and that was my second mistake. 40 minutes. This is the time the protocol requires before activating a rescue team. 40 minutes of technical waiting. 40 minutes for the employee to re-establish contact on their own. 40 minutes, that can mean the difference between life and death. I tried the radio 7 times, then 10. Then I lost count. Just static or silence. Nothing more. I called Jenkins for monitoring. "Can you see anything on the external cameras near D9? "No. The fog is too dense. And the D9 doesn't have direct camera coverage. You know that." I knew it. Of course I knew it. Section D9 was one of the platform's blind spots. Old equipment. Refurbishment scheduled for the next quarter. Always the next quarter. And the sensors. The vibration stopped 15 minutes ago. Everything is back to normal. Normal. That cursed word. Did Henrique not respond anymore? No. I hung up. My hands were sweating. I wiped them on my pants, but they started sweating again immediately. My chest was tight, shortness of breath. I knew this feeling, panic beginning to creep in. I looked at the clock on the wall, 3:04 a.m. Another 22 minutes until the protocol authorized me to send a team. 22 minutes in which Henrique could have been bleeding, trapped, fallen, alone, or worse. I stood up. I walked to the window. Outside, only fog, thick as dirty cotton. The lights on the platform created ghostly halos, but illuminated nothing more than 3 meters away. Beyond that, only darkness. I grabbed my own radio and switched to the over-the-air channel. "Attention! Has anyone in the East Zone seen Henrique in the last 20 minutes? Static. Then, a few tired voices answered. No one had seen anything. I knew I had to go there. Immediately. Break protocol. Grab a flashlight and go after him. But something held me back. Fear? Maybe. Or something worse. His voice was still echoing in my head. "There's someone here." "Who?" The platform had 140 men. I knew them all by name. No one should have been on D9 at that hour. No one. So who had Henry seen? My hands began to tremble. I shoved them into my pockets to hide it, but the trembling spread up my arms. My body knew something my mind still refused to accept. Something had happened to Henrique, and it wasn't an accident. I looked at the clock again. 3:17, 9 minutes. I sat back down in the chair. I closed my eyes. I tried to take a deep breath, but all I could hear was that final whisper of his. "Someone is looking at me." And then silence. That silence that still haunts me. Because silence, I learned that night, is not the absence of sound. Silence is when something is listening. 3:26. I activated the yellow code. 3 men with me. Flashlights, extra radios, first aid kit. No one said anything as we walked. The sound of our boots on the metal echoed, muffled by the fog. The wind cut through the exposed skin of my face. I held the flashlight steady, but my hand trembled. Section D9 was located on an external walkway, connected to the main body of the platform by a series of narrow stairs and corridors. An old structure, peeling paint, rust in the corners. The kind of place the company always promises to renovate but never does. When we arrived, the first thing I saw was his helmet. It was on the floor. Intact, no scratches, no blood. Just left there. As if he had picked it up and carefully placed it on the floor, but Henrique never took off his helmet. Never. He was obsessed with safety. "Henrique!" I shouted. My voice was swallowed by the wind. Silence. Miller, one of the technicians, pointed his flashlight at the handrail. "Look at this." Marks, drag, as if something heavy had been pulled by the metal. But they weren't continuous. They were irregular. They started strong, then became weaker, then stopped, in the middle of the hallway. They didn't end at a door. They didn't end in a fall. They just stopped, as if whatever was being dragged along had simply vanished. "Where's his radio?" asked Torres, the youngest member of the team. "We found it 3 meters away, still strapped to his tool belt, lying on the ground along with a wrench and a multimeter." I picked up the radio. The transmit button was green. On. I pressed it. "Henrique, If you're listening to me, answer me. Static. I put the radio to my ear. I waited. And then, breathing, weak, distant. But it was there. Someone was breathing on the other side. Henrique? Breathing stopped. And then a voice. But it wasn't his. It was multiple, overlapping, like several people talking at the same time, but slightly out of sync. I haven't finished yet. I dropped the radio. He struck the metal with a hollow sound. No one moved to pick it up. Miller took a step back. What the hell was that? We need to get out of here, Torres said. His voice was thin, high-pitched, frightened. But I couldn't move. My eyes were fixed on the skid marks. At that point where they simply stopped. And then I felt it. That primal, ancient feeling of being watched. Not because of my men, because of something behind me. I turned slowly. I pointed the flashlight. Fog. Just fog. But it was different. Denser. As if it had a shape. As if it were moving against the wind, not with it. Marcus. Miller's voice was tense. We need to go. Now. He was right. We grabbed the helmet, the tools, the radio, and we returned in silence. Nobody looked back. But I felt, every second of the way back, that something was following us. Not by our footsteps, but by the silence between them. When we arrived at the control room, I locked the door. A pointless action on a platform, I know. But I needed to feel that there was some kind of barrier between us, and whatever was out there. 3 hours later, the company sent an investigation team by helicopter in the morning. They spent 4 hours in Section D9. They measured. They photographed. They analyzed. They searched every inch of metal. Nothing. No sign of Henry. No trace of blood. No evidence of a struggle. The official report came out 2 weeks later. Technical failure. Accident due to fall into the sea. Body not recovered due to adverse sea conditions. I read that and felt bile rising in my throat. A fall. Henrique was wearing a seatbelt. He always wore one. And the skid marks, the helmet left on the ground, the breathing sounds on the radio. None of that was mentioned. His family received standard compensation. $50,000 and a letter of condolence, signed by someone who never knew Henrique, nor knew how he laughed, nor saw him play cards every Saturday night with the other coaches. They called all of us, me, Miller, Torres, into a meeting room on dry land. A man in a gray suit placed papers in front of us. A confidentiality agreement. A non-disclosure clause. Legal terms that basically said, you didn't see anything. You won't say anything. It's to protect the company's reputation and avoid unnecessary panic among employees, he said, without looking us in the eye. I signed. Miller signed. Torres signed. Because we needed the jobs. Because families depended on us. Because that's how it works. Statistics, numbers, clean reports, all filed away and forgotten. I returned to the platform a month later. I tried not to think about it. I tried to focus on work. But every time the radio crackled, my heart raced. Every time someone went outside alone, I felt a tightness in my chest. 3 months later, another technician reported abnormal metallic noises near D9. I sent a team of 4 men, together, always together. They encountered only wind and fog, but one of them, Rodriguez, came back pale. He said he felt something, someone watching, a presence. I wrote in the report, verification completed. No anomalies detected, and I filed it away. 6 months after Henrique disappeared, I was alone in the control room, the graveyard shift. 2:17 a.m., exactly the same time. The radio crackled. I froze, static, then silence, and then his voice. I haven't finished yet. Weak, distant, but unmistakable. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just turned off the radio and sat there in the dark, trembling, because I understood that night. Henry did not fall into the sea. He didn't leave. He's still there, on D9, stuck in something I can't comprehend. Something the company decided to classify as a technical glitch because it's cheaper than admitting the truth. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if what I heard on the radio was really him, or something using his voice. But I know one thing. That platform is still operating. Right now. With 140 men working 12-hour shifts, isolated in the middle of the ocean, trusting that someone will notice them if they disappear. Trusting that their lives matter more than just numbers in a report. I requested a transfer. I returned to land. I couldn't do it anymore. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. The radio was crackling. That overlapping voice. Multiple. I'm not finished yet. And I wonder, how many others are there? How many others did the company classify as accidents? How many others are still finishing? Whatever it was they were forced to do. I worked for 3 years at that refinery in Texas, and in a single night, everything I believed about safety protocols crumbled. My name is Rodrigo, and I was a night shift control operator at Petrochem Industries, a refinery 2 hours from Houston. My shift was 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was always the methodical guy, the one who followed every procedure to the letter. Maybe that's why they put me alone in the underground control room, 4 floors below ground level, surrounded by pipelines that processed millions of gallons a day. The room was small, 3 meters by 5 at most. Concrete walls painted an institutional gray, 12 monitors flashing real-time data, and that constant hum of the old air conditioner that never stopped. The fluorescent light gave everything a greenish, lifeless tone. Sometimes I would go hours without seeing another human being. Not that I cared. After the divorce 6 months ago, I preferred being there to being at home. That industrial silence was better than the silence of the empty apartment. I knew every sound, the whistling of the pressure valves, the rhythmic clicking of the gauges, the distant echo of metal expanding with heat. Everything had a pattern. Everything made sense. That night, March 14th, I arrived at my usual time. I handed over the shift to Davis, a guy in his 50s who barely looked at me. He handed me the report, grabbed his empty lunchbox, and left without saying goodnight. Routine. I descended the metal staircase. Each step echoed. I swiped my badge on the reader, green beep, and entered the control room. The door closed with that heavy sound of an automatic seal. Pressurized air. Total isolation. I sat in the swivel chair, turned on the systems, checked the levels. Everything normal. Sector A, stable. Sector B, stable. Sector C, pressure within expected range. Sector D7, operating in automatic mode. I grabbed my coffee from the thermos. It was still warm. I put on my headphones. I always listened to podcasts to pass the time. But that night, I don't know why, I left them around my neck. I had a strange feeling, like I'd forgotten something important. I checked my mental checklist. ID badge, radio, cell phone in the locker upstairs, security protocol, no personal electronics in the controlled area. All good. But the feeling wouldn't go away. I looked at the screen in Sector D7. Everything was normal. The camera showed the tanks, the pipes, the emergency lights flashing slowly. Nothing was moving. It was 11:47 p.m. I had no idea that in less than 3 hours, everything I knew about that place would fall apart. 2:37 a.m. I was checking the temperature reports when the alarm went off. It wasn't gradual. It was instantaneous. A sharp, piercing sound that cut through the silence of the room like a blade. The red lights began to spin on the ceiling. My heart raced. Emergency. Sector D7. Leak detected. I stood up so quickly that I spilled my coffee. The dark liquid splattered across the table, but I didn't even look. My eyes were fixed on the screen. Sector D7. Abnormal pressure. If this was real, if there really was a leak, the protocol was clear. Immediate evacuation, activation of the containment system, Emergency shutdown. Estimated loss, $4 to $6 million per hour of downtime. My hand went to the radio. Carvalho, are you copying? Sector D7, code red. Static. Jensen, answer me. I need visual confirmation on D7 now. Nothing. I was about to press the emergency stop button when the alarm stopped. It simply stopped. The red lights went out. The sound cut out as if someone had ripped the cable. Silence returned, but now it was different. Heavy. Wrong. I looked at the main screen. Manual shutdown authorized. EO2 3714. My stomach turned to ice. Manual shutdown meant that someone had physically gone to a terminal and entered the cancellation code. But that required supervisor-level authorization, and I was the only supervisor on the shift. I picked up the radio again, more firmly this time. Carvalho. Jensen. Someone manually disabled the D7 alarm. Who was it? The static hissed for 5, 10, 15 seconds. Then a voice answered. It was Jensen, but he sounded distant, as if his mouth were far from the radio. It wasn't me, Rodrigo. I'm in Sector A. I didn't hear any alarm. Carvalho, I insisted. More silence, then his hoarse voice. I'm in the cooling tower. I didn't hear anything either. It must have been an automatic test. It wasn't a test, I was almost yelling now. The system registered a manual shutdown. Silence. I took a deep breath. I opened the event log on the computer. I needed to know where the command had come from. The screen loaded slowly. Those old systems were always slow. And then I saw. Terminal, basement 03 user, Arzilva. Ops time, 02:36:58, basement 03. The maintenance terminal that was 2 floors below me. A place where there was almost never anyone. Dark, damp, full of old pipes. And the user was me. Or Silva Ops, my login, but I hadn't left the control room. My breathing quickened. I checked the camera in Sector D7 to make sure everything was okay. The screen was black. Offline camera. I went back to the log. I checked the timestamp. Camera D7, offline, 2:35:12. Reconnected, 02:40. 03. 5 minutes. The camera had gone offline for exactly 5 minutes. Out of nowhere. Just when the alarm went off. And someone, or something, had used my login to turn off the alarm on a terminal that I had never touched. My hands were trembling on the keyboard. I picked up the landline. I dialed the number of the supervisor on duty, Patterson. He answered on the 5th ring, his voice groggy with sleep. Rodrigo. It's almost 3 in the morning, man. Patterson, the D7 alarm went off and someone manually turned it off. It wasn't me, and the camera went offline. Silence on the other end. Did someone authorize testing tonight? No. His voice was serious now. No test was scheduled. Did you confirm visually? The camera was offline. Then go down there and check it out. I looked at the door to the control room, at the dark corridor that led to the metal staircase, at the basement. Patterson. The log says the command came from the terminal in basement 03. Long pause. And he says it was me who hung up. Another silence, heavier. Rodrigo, are you okay? Maybe you need to take a few days off. I did not go down there, he sighed. Then go there now and find out who it was, and call me back. The call dropped. I kept staring at the door. I needed to get off the bus, but every fiber of my body screamed, "Don't go." I picked up the flashlight. My hand was sweating so much I almost dropped it. The control room door swung open with a pneumatic hiss. The corridor ahead was bathed in a yellowish twilight. Only the emergency lights were on, spaced 10 meters apart. The hum of the machines seemed louder outside. More alive. I started to go down. The metal staircase echoed with every step. step by step. The air grew colder as I descended, more humid. I could taste the metallic taste in my mouth. First basement level, storage tanks, all deserted. Second basement level, main pipes, only the sound of liquid running inside the walls. Third basement level, the door was heavy, made of industrial metal, with a reinforced glass panel. I swiped my badge. Green beep. The door unlocked with a mechanical clunk. I pushed. The air that came out of there was icy. It smelled of old oil and mold. The room was long and narrow, more of a corridor than a room. Pipes in the ceiling, so low that I had to duck my head in some places. At the end of the corridor, lit by a single bare light bulb hanging from the ceiling, the terminal. He was connected. The screen glowed with that ghostly blue of an old monitor. I approached slowly, the flashlight trembling in my hand. The login prompt was still active on the screen. Welcome, Silva, Ops last action. Manual shutdown, alarm, D7 time. 02-36-58, my login, my account. But I had never gone down there before. I tried to log out. I pressed Ctrl plus Alt plus Del. Nothing. The screen was unresponsive. I tried to turn off the monitor. The button was stuck, and then I heard it. A sound. Distant. Coming from somewhere deeper underground. Metal dragging against concrete. Slow. Deliberate. I froze it. The sound stopped. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. I took a step back, and the sound started again. As if responding to my movement, I started walking faster toward the door. The sound continued, closer now. Coming from the side corridor I hadn't seen before, a dark passageway without lights. Run. I walked through the door, climbed the stairs, stumbling over my own feet. The lights on the second basement level flickered, then they went out. I continued climbing in the dark, using my flashlight. My heart pounded in my chest. I reached the control room, went inside, and locked the door behind me, something I'd never done before. I leaned against it, breathless and sweating profusely. The radio made a hissing sound. I jumped. The voice that came out of him was distorted, full of static, but I recognized it. It was Cavallo, but she was wrong. Rodrigo. The voice was drawn out, slow. Protocol completed. Return to standard. Cavallo, where are you? Static. Oak. Absolute silence. I looked at the monitors. All the cameras, offline. All of them. Except one. The camera in my own control room. And on her screen, reflected, I could see. The door is behind me, and a silhouette standing still on the other side of the safety glass. Stop. Looking. The image froze. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My body was frozen, my eyes fixed on the monitor screen. The silhouette remained motionless on the other side of the door. I couldn't see the face. The hallway light was too dim. Only the outline. Tall, broad shoulders, completely still. My breathing was too loud in the silent room. I counted to 3 in my head. Then I turned around slowly. The hallway was empty. I looked back at the monitor. The image still showed the silhouette. But when I looked directly through the door, nothing. Just the empty hallway and the flashing emergency lights. My throat was dry. I tried to swallow, but I couldn't. The terminal in front of me lit up by itself. I hadn't touched anything. A command line began to appear on the screen, letter by letter, slowly, as if someone were typing in slow motion. VOCANRODEVERIAESTARAQUI. My blood ran cold. I pulled the chair back so quickly that it tipped over. I tripped over it trying to get away from the table. My back hit the concrete wall. The screen flickered. The text disappeared. I stood there, leaning against the wall, trying to think, trying to rationalize. Someone had remote access to the system. It had to be that. Someone was doing this on purpose. A test. A prank. Carvalho always had a shitty sense of humor. But then why was my whole body screaming for me to run away? I looked at the clock on the wall. 3:12 a.m. There were still almost 4 hours left until the end of my shift. I picked up the radio with trembling hands. Jensen, Carvalho. Someone answer me, please. Static. I need someone to come down here now. Something is wrong with the system. The static hissed louder. Then, silence. I decided to leave. Go up to ground level. Find someone. Anyone. But when I tried to swipe my badge on the reader at the door, the red light came on. Access denied. I tried again. Red. No. 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 I typed my manual code into the keyboard. 8 digits that I knew by heart. Access denied. Unauthorized user. I pounded on the door. The pain exploded in my hand, but I didn't even really feel it. It was locked. In my own control room. The fluorescent lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then they went out completely. Only the red emergency lights remained, slowly rotating on the ceiling, painting everything in red and shadow. Red and shadow. Red and shadow. I grabbed the flashlight. I shone it into the hallway through the glass. It's you. The silhouette. Closer now. Less than 3 meters from the door. I could see the details this time. Work overalls. Yellow helmet. But something was wrong with the proportions. The arms were too long. The head tilted at an angle that no human neck should make. And it was getting closer. One step, then another, without making a sound. Just getting closer. I retreated to the opposite wall. I had nowhere else to go. Just that room. 4 square meters between me and that thing. The silhouette stopped in front of the door. It stayed there. Still. Then he started raising his hand towards the badge reader. I heard the beep. Green. The door began to open. I screamed. It wasn't a shout of words. It was pure panic. Animalistic. And then, the lights came back on. Suddenly. All at once. Fluorescent lights buzzing loudly. Monitors flashing back to life. The air conditioner hummed and restarted. The door was ajar. Just 5 centimeters. But there was no one on the other side. I stood there, huddled against the wall, sweating profusely, breathless, waiting for that thing to come back. Nothing happened. The radio made a hissing sound. Rodrigo, are you okay, man? It was Jensen. His voice was normal now. Worried. I couldn't answer. My voice had disappeared. Rodrigo, answer. I'm here. Dude, you look terrible on the monitor. Want me to come down here? I looked at the clock. 6:48 a.m. 3.5 hours had passed. I couldn't remember anything after the door started to open. Davis arrived around 7 a.m. He entered the control room with his usual expressionless face, coffee in hand. So, how was your night? I was sitting in the chair, still trembling. Davis. Something happened. The D7 alarm went off. Someone used my login. I went down to the basement and everything's normal in the report. He interrupted me, looking at the screen. No incidents recorded. But the alarm. He looked at me for the first time. His eyes were cold. No incidents, Rodrigo. I opened the event log in front of him. I looked for the entry from 2:37 a.m. I wasn't there. Nothing. No alarm. No manual shutdown. No access to basement 03. As if nothing had happened. You look terrible, Davis said, taking a sip of his coffee. Go home. I went up to the parking lot. The sun was rising, too bright and orange. It hurt my eyes. I saw Carvalho leaning against his car, smoking. I went up to him. Carvalho, did you speak to me on the radio early this morning? He glanced at me sideways, puffing smoke at me. Me? I didn't even pick up the radio all night, man. I was in the North Tower the whole time. You said, protocol fulfilled. He took a long drag. He didn't answer. Carvalho, what happened in basement 03? He threw the cigarette on the ground and walked away slowly. Look, Rodrigo. He lowered his voice. "You're tired. Divorce sucks. Night shifts suck. Go home. Get some sleep." I was about to turn around to leave when I heard the sound of a car approaching. It was Patterson, the supervisor. He got out of the car, saw us, and came towards us. Carvalho muttered, "Good luck," and walked away. Patterson stopped in front of me. "Rodrigo, my office, now." I sat in the chair facing him. Patterson closed the door. "You called me in the middle of the night talking about alarms, offline cameras, phantom logins." He crossed his arms. "I checked everything. There's nothing in the logs." "But I saw it, Patterson. I went down there." "Rodrigo." He cut me off, but his voice wasn't angry. It was tired. "You're exhausted. I know things are difficult. I know about the divorce. You need to take a few days off. I want you out of here for a week." "It's not about the divorce. Something's wrong with that basement." He sighed deeply. He looked at the door, as if checking to make sure it was properly closed. Then he leaned forward and whispered, "Don't talk about this with anyone." My stomach sank. "What did you say?" "You heard me." He stood up. "1 week off. Paid. Come back next Monday." "Patterson, it's happened before, hasn't it?" He opened the door. "Go home, Rodrigo." It's been 2 months. I didn't come back. I sent my resignation letter by email. I didn't give an explanation. I didn't answer calls from HR. I found a job elsewhere, day shift, office with windows. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, when I can't sleep, my cell phone vibrates. Refinery system notifications. Login detected. R. Silva, Ops location, basement, row 3. Time, 02:36. Always the same time, always the same place. I blocked the number. I uninstalled the app. I reset my phone. But the notifications keep coming. And I know that someone is still down there, using my name, turning off alarms that should have gone off, making everyone pretend that nothing is wrong, because it's cheaper that way, because stopping would cost millions. And some things just don't show up in the reports. If you work the night shift, tell me where. And if you've ever been through something similar, you already know what to do.